Is Ash Wednesday and also Valentine's Day, as has been mentioned. The American people are not feeling very loved right now, though. They're not feeling heard by the Biden administration. And I'm going to recap a few of the things that you've heard here this morning already. First of all, regarding this fitness for office of the president, Americans have been speaking out about the president's mental acuity and the double standards within his Justice Department. On Thursday, as you know, the special counsel confirmed that President Biden mishandled classified materials in a way that presented serious risk to national security. He broke the law, but he's not going to be charged. Why is that? Well, special counsel said that it decided not to indict the president in part because there are significant limitations on his memory, and a jury wouldn't convict him because he would be presented as, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory. That did not inspire confidence among the American people. It's of great concern to us. Ultimately, they're indicting, remember now, the DOJ is indicting one president with politically motivated charges, and they are now carrying the water for another amid very similar allegations. A man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office. And everyone in this room, if you just ask yourself that question, you will come to the same conclusion. On energy, this isn't the only issue, that the Biden administration is facing criticism for. Americans have expressed their frustration with his attacks on energy independence. We say all the time here that energy security is national security. The two things are directly related. It's also the lifeblood of the U.S. economy in so many ways. But the president has paused pending approvals on exports of liquefied natural gas. Why? Why would he do that? It's completely counterproductive for our country, and it is dangerous. My home state of Louisiana happens to be the largest producer of America's LNG. We try to export that around the world. But he is stalling LNG export terminals like Calcasieu Pass 2. It's nothing but a political ploy to appease radical climate activists at great cost. Job creators and energy producers are going to have to pause their projects. It's going to jeopardize thousands of U.S. jobs. And our partners in Europe, who were promised an alternative to Russian energy, will now have to source fuel from Moscow. They're going to line Putin's pockets. If we don't send American LNG to our friends and allies in that part of the world, they will have to go to Moscow to get it. We'll have to turn to energy sources that aren't as clean. Our European friends and allies will turn to these sources that are not as clean. Russian gas is not as clean as U.S. gas to make up for all those losses. And that's why this week the House is moving on legislation to depoliticize the LNG permitting process. House Republicans are going to do our job. We're listening to our energy producers who are standing for energy independence, which is good for every single American. Regarding the border, talk about the American people not being listened to. They are crying out to the Biden administration to secure the border. This is not a Republican issue. It's an issue for every single person, and everybody knows it. We know the stories of children being poisoned by fentanyl and cities being overwhelmed by migrant surges. We know House Republicans have shown that we are listening to and holding the administration accountable for this catastrophe. We're listening to the people. We're taking action to hold Biden accountable. Last night, the House voted to approve articles of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. Desperate times call for desperate measures. We had to do that. He has abdicated his responsibility, he's breached the public trust, and he's disregarded the laws Congress has passed. But much more has to be done, of course, to secure the border. And what the Senate produced this week is silent on that issue. Senator McConnell and I have spoken about this in frank sessions, and let me be clear here again this morning. The Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border. It's time for Washington to start showing some love to Americans. On Valentine's Day, this is a good day to point this out. We need to listen to the American people and the needs and take action. And that's why House leadership will continue to govern with Americans' interests at heart. With that, I'll take some questions.
Does that mean that House Republicans have a challenge in keeping the majority, and what should House Republicans do?
No, the result last night is not something, in my view, that Democrats should celebrate too much. Think about what happened there. They spent about $15 million to win a seat that President Biden won by 8 points. They won it by less than 8 points. Their candidate ran like a Republican. He sounded like a Republican talking about the border and immigration, because everybody knows that's the top issue that is on the hearts and minds of everybody. That incumbent had been a 3-term member of Congress, and he had 100% name ID and a deep family history in the district. Our candidate was relatively unknown in that comparison and had a very short runway. She ran a remarkable campaign. There was a weather event that affected turnout. There are a lot of factors there. That is in no way a bellwether of what's going to happen this fall. We are absolutely convinced. I've been to 17 states in the last 12 weeks. I'm telling you, whether I'm out west, on Long Island, in the Deep South, Mid-South, in Midwest, it doesn't matter. There is a fervor among the American people. And it is bipartisan. People know that this country is on the wrong track. 74% in the latest poll believe that the country's on the wrong track. Why? Because of the leadership from the White House. They see what is happening. President Biden has the lowest approval rating of any president who has ever run for re-election. I think it's 37% in the latest poll. It goes down precipitously. And the reason is because of all the things we talked about today. It is a total lack of leadership. And now more and more Americans have made their own opinion about his fitness for office. And so I think that's going to have a big effect in the fall as well. So New York 3 was what it was, but that has nothing to do on the efforts going forward. Manu.
On the issue of immigration and New York 3, the candidate there seized upon the fact that you guys rejected this bipartisan border security deal in the Senate. Did you mishandle this issue and effectively give Democrats something to campaign on?
No, not at all. Look, the American people are with us on this issue. I mean, they are with us because they understand you have to actually solve the problem. And the product that was produced by the Senate did not solve the problem. You've all heard us hammer over and over, H.R. 2, right? That was our signature piece of legislation that we passed many, many months ago, last year. And the reason that all those components are important, again, is because they have to fit together. That's got to solve the problem. You have to address all of them. The Senate bill didn't do that, and that's why it was rejected over there. We have to do it. It's been mentioned that I've been requesting a meeting with the president for weeks now, a month. I've been asking to sit down with the president to talk about the border and talk about national security, and that meeting has not been granted. And I'm going to continue to insist on that because they're very serious issues that need to be addressed. And if the Speaker of the House can't meet with the President of the United States, that's a problem. I don't know why they're uncomfortable having the President sit across the table from me, but I will go in good faith because we have to solve this issue and do every single thing we can. And as you know, he has a broad arsenal of executive authority that he could use right now. He could have used yesterday. He could have used months ago to stem the flow. That's not our view. That's what the law says, and we've spelled that out. We also documented 64 specific actions that he took from the day he walked into the Oval Office and his agencies to open that border wide and create this catastrophe. And that is why we have a problem. We've got to get to it. Scott in the back. Well, that's a very good question, but I have to do everything that I can. And he is the commander-in-chief right now, as uncomfortable as that makes most of this country. And I have to work with what I have. I have to do my job, and I'm going to insist to continue to do that. The House Republicans are going to continue to do our job. We're going to continue to move the ball forward. We're going to continue to demand that before we take care of issues all around the world, we take care of our own first. And I'm telling you, that is not a campaign message. That is the truth, and that is what resonates in the hearts of the American people. We are on their side, and it's the side of common sense. It's the side of security. It's the side of stability. It's the side of sanity. And the President of the United States will not acknowledge that, and it is of great alarm to us. Take one more. Yeah. Hey. No, we're addressing each of those issues. They're important issues on the table. We are not going to be forced into action by the Senate, who, in the latest product they sent us over, does not have one word in the bill about America's border, not one word about security. The reason that the other one was dead on arrival is because it did not meet the moment. It would not have solved the problem. You can't leave giant loopholes and codify some of the things that have gotten us into this situation. So what we're doing right now is the House is working its will. The House Republican Conference, we just met an hour ago with all the members, and there are lots of ideas on the table of how to address these issues. We will address the issues. We'll do our duty on that matter, and all that begins in earnest right now. We have to address this seriously. We have to actually solve the problems and not just take political posturing as has happened in some of these other corners.